Hello everyone and welcome to a very nice game. A lot of you requested as soon as it finished from this week's Title Tuesday, round 3. It is a Russian candidate master Maksim Ivannikov versus Magnus Carlsen, and it just shows the true power of the bishop pair and why you should not give it up, even though, you know, the engine might say it's okay, and even though you might mess up your opponent's pawn structure, it's just not worth it. So let's see what happened here. Maksim with white opens with pawn to e4. Magnus replies with pawn to e6. He goes for the French defense. We have pawn to d4, pawn to d5, and the exchange variation. E captures on d5. And yes, we all know Tal's famous saying, but you know, it's 2025. You can play whatever you want if you have you know, good backup by our good friend the engine. We have e captures on d5, knight f3, knight to c6, and bishop to d3. So just a normal exchange variation of the French. And Magnus goes knight to b4. And it makes sense. There's the bishop on d3. We all know this is white's strongest piece. Of course, you want to eliminate it. And you could go bishop to b5 check, then for example c6, bishop to a4, and so on, maybe even bring it to b3. But Maksim goes bishop to e2, and now Magnus brings the bishop over to f5. Immediately puts pressure on that c2 pawn. Knight to a3 defending, and you're going to kick away the knight, and then the knight can be reintroduced into the game. Or maybe not, as I've already mentioned. Knight to f6, we have pawn to c3, knight to c6, and here you could go knight to c2, but Maksim decides to leave the knight there, and he just castles kingside. And it is now, as of move 9, that we have a completely new game, and Magnus goes for the immediate bishop captures on a3. And indeed, it is the best move recommended by the engine. That's why I decided to put this on the thumbnail. Just to show you that it doesn't matter, you know, we're not engines, and we cannot play like them, even though sometimes, you know, certain players can, but especially at this time format. B captures on a3, and now castles kingside. You know, I don't know who said that once. You know, we say that, okay, if you know, a knight is worth 3, then the bishop is worth 3 and a third. But in blitz, I would say a knight is worth 3 and a third, and the bishop is worth 3, or, you know, whichever measurement you prefer. So castles kingside, bishop to d3 offers a trade of light square bishops, and we have a trade. Bishop captures, queen captures, and pawn to h6. Okay, rook to b1, as the b7 pawn is undefended, and Magnus simply plays pawn to b6. Both of them playing pretty much instantly, so, you know, it's a 3-minute blitz game. We have bishop to f4, putting pressure on that c7 pawn, and okay, nothing to it, just a nice rook e8. We have pawn to h3 by Magnus, creating some breathing room for the king. Also bishop h2 is possible, also you're stopping knight to g4. So all in all, a very useful move, and now Magnus could go something like knight a5, maybe to c4, then later on you play c5, you get the other knight to e4 as well, so it's one way to do it. Magnus goes queen to d7, probably to provoke the knight coming to e5, and then, you know, he just wants to trade with tempo and then execute c5, getting rid of the weakness on c7 and attacking white's center. So here rook fe1, Magnus trades, rook captures, we have rook captures and rook to e8. We have knight to e5, as, you know, probably planned. Knight captures on e5, d captures on e5, and you don't really have to move the knight as the rook on e1 is undefended, so Magnus just goes queen, sorry, not queen to f5, queen to e6, and now queen to a6. Maksim goes after the a7 pawn, and Magnus decides to give it up. He goes knight e4. We have queen captures on a7 and pawn to c5, preparing pawn to d4 to create a passed pawn, and the queen is nicely defending the b6 pawn. We have pawn to a4, and here Magnus just decides to leave the b6 pawn unattended. He plays queen to f5, okay, with tempo, attacking the bishop. Bishop to g3, we have knight captures, f captures, and now queen to d3, attacking the c3 pawn, attacking the g3 pawn, and saying, I'm just faster. But here we have rook f1. Probably he was, you know, hoping for queen captures on b6, then you can capture on g3, attack the rook, still attack the c3 pawn. But no, rook f1, threatening queen captures on f7, and you should continue in great style with king to h7. But Magnus played rook to f8, and now he's just a little bit slower. Queen captures on b6, and now queen captures on c3. Here, the only way to play is to capture on g3, and then after queen captures on c5, now you capture on e5, and okay. You fight against the passed a-pawn. White is still the one pushing, but you're fighting. Magnus, on the other hand, played queen captures on c3 first, and now his position is lost. And you probably already know why, but just in case you don't, have at it. Feel free to pause the video and win the game for Maksim. Of course, pawn to e6. It seems like you're just giving up material, but that's not the case. There is really nothing Magnus can do here. He even goes queen e3 check, so the queen nicely aligns with the e6 pawn, but it doesn't help. King to h2, and now if you capture with the queen, then the problem is, okay, Maksim just trades, and after captures, and, well, you all know about the square of the pawn to a5, and the king is simply too far away. You're not in the square of the pawn, so you're not going to be able to stop the passed pawn from promoting. White is just too fast. And on the other hand, if you play f captures on e6 instead of queen captures, it's the same thing. Rook captures on f8, king captures, and pawn to a5. You can't reach the white king, so there are no perpetuals here, and if you try to make it a race, it's not really much of a race. d3, a7, d2, and a8 comes with check. So okay, you have two queens, you're in check. You will never queen that d2 pawn, and you're just gonna get checkmated. So after king to h2, best hope for black is something like f5, but okay, I mean, it's a 3-minute blitz game, and it's always hard to find unique saving moves, even though white is still winning here, but you know, when you're in a bad position. So king to h7 was played by Magnus, and now rook captures on f7, threatening to capture on f8, and also just preparing pawn to e7. We have rook to g8, pawn to e7. Now many threats here, so it's all the same what Magnus plays. Magnus played rook to e8. We have queen to d8, even though every other move wins as well. Queen to d8, rook captures on d8, captures with queen, pawn to d4, and here again, okay, Magnus does have two connected passed pawns, but you know, just queen f6, and he was in this position on move 33 that Magnus Carlsen resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So while yes, Maksim Ivannikov is a candidate master, but on chess.com he's rated over 2700 in blitz, so obviously he is a very, very strong player. 15 years old, but yeah, nicely taking down Magnus Carlsen like this. And even though that bishop captures on a3 is a top engine move, you know, if you just you know, play what the engine says, you know, the chess gods will not favor you, regardless of who you're playing against. But yeah, here he resigned because, okay, there's checkmate on g7, you're gonna have to trade queens, that's all there is to it. And after that, it's just a5, you know, and you bring this pawn to become a queen. You also have a rook, your opponent doesn't, and you don't have anything to go for that race. If you play d2, then the rook will just stop the pawn, and c4 is much too slow. Pawn to d2, rook to d7, you're gonna play c3, a8 queen, and you will get c2, so you will have to connect the passed pawns on the second rank, but queen f8, and that's it. You checkmate the black king. Nothing to be done there. So after queen to f6, very nice victory in round 3 for Maksim Ivannikov against, well, the highest rated player in the world, Magnus Carlsen. And to make matters worse for Magnus, he did not win Title Tuesday. In fact, to make it even worse, he was, let me just check if I have this somewhere. Yeah, yeah, he was tied for second place with Hans Niemann. Hans was playing in the final round. He faced Pranav for the victory in the tournament, but he lost to Pranav, and then Pranav won in first place, and second place shared, you know, two best friends, Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely played by 15-year-old candidate master Maksim Ivannikov, taking down Magnus Carlsen in great style. I would like to thank Torkel Stenquist, Felix Steinel, Seshadri Subramanian, Andrei Shrade, and James Anderson for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.